The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
Hell yeah, let's get Stinko.
Welcome, Giles and the Goalies podcast. I am Giles Farrell. Across the table from me is Ben Remington.
Hello.
And we are back going mobile with our audio equipment. We think we've figured it out in the hopes of bringing you a good product because we know how much people love it when we record from unnamed bar and grill.
It is kind of our bit.
And people definitely seem to like it when the drinks are a little bit flowing. That gets me going because you never know what you're going to get.
Well, and you do have 3 drinks in front of you right now.
As seen on our Facebook Live post. Follow us on Facebook. Promo. So I have a grind the gears for today.
Good.
You know what really grinds my gears?
And this is one that's built up for almost 3 years now. Yeah, there's a story behind this.
Okay.
So, 3 years ago, at like Christmas time, my cousin, he played varsity hockey, and they did a fundraiser, like, most, teams would. And so their fundraiser was they did pizzas, a local frozen pizza company. So I got a few of their frozen pizzas, and it was like a meat pizza. It was like there's like a unique one, like a chicken Alfredo pizza or something. And then there was a breakfast pizza, which I loved. Mm-hmm. And I mean, full disclosure, I was under the weather that day when I had it, so it made it that much more.
Under the
weather from
okay.
It was a Sunday morning. So under the weather on Sunday morning usually means
right.
something Saturday night.
Right.
Yeah. So I was all excited to get back on this breakfast pizza the next year when he was going to do it for his senior year.
Yeah.
And Christmas time came again, and he, the flyer went around for the fundraiser. And I was scanning the sheet for the breakfast pizza, and it wasn't on there.
It's a shame.
And I blurted out, "Where the hell's the breakfast pizza?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, that was discontinued for this year."
Oh.
Crushed. I was crushed. So, because it's kind of more of a local frozen pizza company, I have been searching for it in various stores that I've been in. But I clearly was not looking in the right stores. Like, I even went to their website to see if it would help me try to find this, because I would find, their basic kinds, your cheese, your pepperoni, your meat pack, your, everything.
Sure.
I just couldn't find this breakfast pizza. So finally, it hit me a couple weeks ago to just contact, because they have a contact us page on their website.
Sure.
But it's more for business inquiries. So I was like, well, whatever. I've looked for this long enough. No store or gas station has this pizza. I want to know where it is. I don't care where it is. I'm going to get it. So I explained it out in the email, and then
I really hope this story ends with you buying a pallet of breakfast pizza.
It took a couple days for them to get back, to which I just thought, well, they just must have thought this was a joke. Who's this guy looking for a breakfast pizza? So finally, the lady gets back to me, and she says, Yep, we definitely still sell those. They're just in a few locations in, in the Twin Cities area. So I got a list, and it was like White Bear Lake, Woodbury, and then Roseville.
Huh.
But this was Cub Foods in Roseville, and I got all excited. And then the next day it hit me, there's 2 Cub Foods in Roseville. So it didn't clarify which one. So the other day, I finally took it upon myself to go to Cub Foods. And I go to the first one, scan the frozen pizza aisle, nothing. I thought, okay, I got the wrong one.
Right.
Go to the next one in Roseville, scan the frozen pizza aisle thoroughly, nothing. And I stood there a couple minutes in disbelief that I just got lied to. So as I'm making my way for the exit, I catch, the sign overhead that says, frozen breakfast. And in my head I go, okay, it's not going to be in here, but I'm going to check just so I can be even more angry. So I walk down the aisle, and sure enough, clear as day, there's a lone spot in the freezer full of pizzas. There it was. It was like Clark Griswold at the beginning of Christmas Vacation when he sees the tree.
There it is.
And I bought it.
So
That long national nightmare has ended.
So was this birthday related? Did you eat breakfast pizza all day on your birthday, or?
No, I actually had it this morning.
Oh, even better.
Because I didn't really have a chance to make it yesterday. And Lord knows I could have used that yesterday. I had it today. It was great. She thought it was great.
Good. Oh, she's.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
She's like, there's a place in Iowa that has it better.
She's right. There is a place in Iowa. I'm pretty sure Iowa has one place.
Hey, speaking of Iowa, the Iowa Wild all got called up to the Minnesota Wild this week.
Did they carpool, by the way? I forgot to ask. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
they carpooled. That's good.
They all piled in.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's.
Okay.
It got a little tight next to the box fan in the back, but. So no, that is the perfect segue to get us into the Minnesota Wild Week in Review, because there was endless amount of days off at the beginning of the week where you forgot the Wild actually played hockey.
Right.
And then Thursday night they got back at it in Chicago as the winless Wild were taking on the Blackhawks in the United Center, and the Blackhawks red hot scoring goals at will, because apparently the second coming of Brandon Saad is greater than anything. But the Wild managed to squeak out a 5-2 win?
Yes.
Behind Chris Stewart goals and
2 Chris Stewart goals.
Devin Dubnyk played very sharp.
Yeah.
As I pointed out earlier in the day, the Wild needed him to be sharp.
Right.
Which is weird when my article actually does something that it intended to. Usually has an opposite effect. But the worst outcome of the game was Marcus Foligno got his face smashed in. Charlie Coyle took a shot to the leg that fractured his tibia, and then Nino Niederreiter had his leg fallen on, which resulted in a high ankle sprain. And they are all out for a while.
Yeah.
At least Foligno's out like a week. He had a nice shiner on the home opener Saturday night. Charlie Coyle was seen at local Hockey City Pub in St. Paul before Saturday night's home opener.
Oh, yeah.
She can vouch for that.
Was he just smashing an omelet?
Okay, so I finally, somebody said it, and I was like, oh, they're joking. And all of a sudden, my friend said, "Hey, Charlie Coyle's standing right there." And I looked over, and I was like, "Oh, there he is."
Was he on crutches?
He was in a boot.
Oh, well.
But because this was like right at the end of his time there, like I was about to put down my beer and go ask him a question that is notorious of this podcast.
You were going to ask about soup, Giles.
No,
I
ask him about the big omelet origin.
Right, of course.
But as I was about to walk over, he walked out because he had to get inside to do nothing.
Right. That's what makes journalism tough.
Yeah.
Catching people in bars.
Get those hard-hitting questions.
Right.
Also, I got really irritated with this lady who was trying to tell me Tom Reid's in there before every game.
Well, I mean, he's
And-
there a lot. We've seen him.
Right, like, I
bunch.
mean, if we're talking like 5 hours before, sure. But if we're talking like an hour before,
No, he works.
Trust me, I'm a seasoned veteran of this place. I know what's up.
Like he's there serving drinks until puck drop, and then
Yeah.
he skedaddles over to the XL.
He's got an underground tunnel. Tom Reid's underground
It's
tunnel.
the Reid tunnel.
No, so the Wild get the big win Thursday in Chicago, and Friday, you know, everyone's feeling in the dumps because the injury list comes in.
Yep.
And then later Friday night, the Wild called up Christoph Berchi, Landon Ferraro, and Zach Mitchell from Iowa to fill the roster spots.
Right.
And then they played on Saturday in the home opener against Columbus. And I actually thought those guys had a pretty good, at least second period. You know, Bruce Boudreau said after the game, hey, I didn't play them like I should have in the third because he was commenting on the, you know, the mistakes the team was making. And he straight threw the older guys under the bus when he said, you know what, it wasn't even the younger guys that were making these mistakes. And he had basically went, yeah, I should have played them a little bit more. But anyway, the Wild had a 4-2 lead in this hockey game, and they blew it as Devin Dubnyk did not look sharp, let in some seemingly not good goals, and the Wild lost 5-4 in overtime, so they did get a point.
Yay.
But I mean, my big takeaway from this was Dubnyk not being sharp, and I felt he was more concerned with, you know, pucks being high stick or interfered with or whatever. It just always seems like he is more concerned about, you know, having a goal called back than not letting the goal in at all.
I don't know that it's that bad, but I will absolutely. I mean, he is a very ardent complainer of any kind of interference or any kind of rule infraction surrounding goals. He's, you know, probably one of the worst at that as far as being in the ref's ear the minute the goal horn goes off. But it's weird. Like, he looked good in Chicago and you know, had a great game. Even though the Wild didn't play great defensively, he saw a fair amount of shots. And then he sees a fair amount of shots again on Saturday and doesn't play particularly well. So, I don't know. It's an interesting back and forth. We're used to him being a little inconsistent, but bouncing from game to game like that is still even a little inconsistent for him.
When I pointed this out this last week, that the Wild were very spoiled last October when he had an insane .952 save percentage.
Right.
Because as I noted, in all the other Octobers before, his combined save percentage was like .902 or something.
Right, it was
it's not good.
Yeah.
So it feels like there was a bit of an anomaly there, and we're still seeing that again. Like, am I worried? No, like, I think he'll come around. It's also the fact the Wild aren't playing in a lot of games right now.
Yeah.
You know, they're getting, like, he's now going to sit on that for the next 6 days before he gets to play again.
Right.
So it's not, you know, exactly fair to him because I'm sure, you know, you can probably speak more to a goalie's mindset than I can, but I'm sure he wants to just get back out there and get the next one in so he can put that, bad one behind him.
Yeah, and it's not surprising to me when goalies have slow starts. I was like that a lot. I mean, again, I was not a good goalie and I didn't play at very high levels, but there was no worse games for me than the first handful of games of the season. Goaltending is it's such a feel kind of position. It's there's skill involved, but it's such a time. There's timing aspects to it as far as making the first move on the shooter and that kind of thing. Just like baseball, I mean, they have spring training, they have preseason for these reasons. You have to kind of get your timing back a little bit. You have to get reacclimated to the crease, reacclimated to your surroundings, and so it's not surprising to me ever when goalies struggle to start the season. It's much more shocking to have a situation like Dubnyk had last year where he came out of the gates just absolutely on fire, and that's something that's really, I think, kind of a rarity.
And as I noted on zone coverage this week, the Wild seem like they're going to need Dubnyk to save them in October again. And this was before the Wild had 3 injuries to key players pile up.
Right.
Yes, Marcus Foligno was just noted as a key player. I'm sorry.
Don't you hate Pam?
Well,
Don't at me on Twitter about it.
Well, he's not a member of the Iowa Wild, so you got to at least give him that.
Well, debatable.
Right, but no, I think you're right, and as they slowly get players back, it sounds like Foligno will be back next week. It sounds like Granlund could be back next week. Sounds like Parise could be back next week. I think Niederreiter is maybe a couple more weeks out, which is fine, and Coyle is obviously probably more like 2 months out with that fracture because he had surgery. But yeah, he's definitely going to need to, backstop things a little bit, to shore up things a little bit, and they're just going to have to. I think even if he plays well, it's going to be tough for them to survive. It's going to be tough for them to make it through October, above 500, just because of the lineup they're putting out there. I mean, you talked about the Iowa kids yesterday. The highest ice time of the 3 of them was Berchi at 5 minutes and 23 seconds. That's enforcer level ice time right there. I mean,
Not
that's
even.
right. Like Derek Bugard had games that far exceeded 5 minutes,
I think
and he was out there for nothing else than punching people.
I think they played the night before. I think they played Friday night.
I think some of them got pulled from that
I don't know if
game,
that
though.
might factor into the game at all, but
I don't think so. I just think that Boudreau didn't have a lot of confidence in him because he had an entire line made up of Iowa players, so I don't blame him.
well, and like I said, he said after the game, yeah, I should have played him a little bit more because they were playing well.
Right.
And that kind of got backed up by the game scores we saw our friend State of Stats put out Sunday morning.
Yeah.
2 of the 3 were some of the highest on the Wild roster.
Now, Ferraro scored, so granted that was kind of a goofy goal, but yeah, it's just surviving this stretch here. Basically surviving until you can survive having Coyle out. But in the meantime, while you have Parise, Granlund, Nino out, I mean, you're going to have to really scrape and scratch to survive that.
Yeah, but will the executive chef before morning skates survive Coyle being out?
Well, I mean, he's going to have to work on his omelet skills separately. It's all about the flip, man. I'm a big omelet guy, and you have to master the flip. The flip is the key to the omelet, and if you get rusty at that, then you end up with scrambled eggs on your sock, and I've done it before.
Oh my. So, out of the week, the Wild are 1-1-2, 4 points, tied for last in the Central Division with the Dallas Stars,
Wow.
who are off to a pretty slow start. But the Wild are the only team in the division that has played just 4 games. Everyone else at 5 or 6, and
Weird.
that number is only going to get worse this
I know.
week.
Yikes.
Also, don't look at the top of the Central Division standings because you will find the Blackhawks and the Avalanche.
Saved by Bednar. Yeah, and that's reasons like the Avalanche being on top of the division or near is reasons why you don't take very early returns with too much seriousness, because if the Avalanche come out of nowhere to have a division title team again, I think a lot of people are going to end up eating their hats because there's just no way that's happening with the talent level of that team.
I got to give Matt Duchene props. He's had a very good start to the season, and at the beginning of training camp when he finally showed up, it looks like he wanted nothing to do with that team, and in your head you're going, he is just going to have a terrible year and even worse in his trade value.
Right.
It has been polar opposite.
Well,
So I guess
Good on
him.
Yeah.
One last thing from this week. Earlier in the week, Jonas Brodin took part in a takeover of Minnesota Wild Twitter. And, of course, he skimmed over my question of, is soup a meal?
of course.
But he did answer a question on what his favorite movie is, to which he answered. And I'm not sure anyone saw this coming, but the answer to the question was the movie Titanic, the 1997 James Cameron blockbuster.
I saw that in theaters.
I gotta be honest, for the longest time, that was the movie I had seen the most in theaters.
Really?
I saw it 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That one boob just had you coming back and back and back again, I take it? Or
I get lost in Leo's eyes.
I mean, I'm not saying it was a bad movie. It's just really weird that a 25-year-old man is like, oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
romantic epic from 20 years ago, that's my jam.
He was just as impressionable on it as I was. Well, that was my record until you can probably guess the movie.
Oh, it's The Dark Knight. Yeah.
Not The Dark Knight.
What? What?
It was the follow-up to The Dark Knight.
Oh, okay.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Interesting.
To which it had between actually sitting in the theater and me watching it upstairs from the projection area.
Well, that doesn't count. You worked at a theater.
Well, I counted it. I counted it out all 12 times.
Oh, jeez.
There you go. There's your embarrassing fact of the day.
I don't know that it's embarrassing when you worked at a theater. Had you not worked at a theater and seen it 12 times, that's absolutely embarrassing, yes.
That's a lot of money.
It is. It really is.
I really haven't been going to movies since I quit working there because it's expensive.
Yeah. It's a
That
lot
doesn't
of
mean I don't like movies.
it's a lot of popcorn markup right there is what that is.
Yeah. Well, now they keep cranking the ticket prices because nobody wants to buy popcorn anymore.
Yeah, they got to make
I
money
wonder
somehow.
why.
Gee.
All right, that's all we got for this last week. Looking ahead, Sunday through Friday, the Wild are off, and they are back at it Friday night in Winnipeg,
Woo.
where hopefully Dustin Bufflin has returned from his fishing excursion.
Good Lord. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure everyone has, but the freaking size of that fish.
Yeah, it
Good
was-
God.
I didn't actually get a measurement.
I don't know how you don't literally crap yourself holding that fish in the water like that.
Well, it's Dustin Bufflin.
Well, it's true. You probably smashed the fish against the boards and skated away like nothing happened.
Body slammed it inexplicitly. But no, the Wild are back at it Friday against the Jets, who are, off to kind of a inconsistent start. First 2 games they were a hot mess, but they've won 3 in a row now, and they're looking pretty sharp. I'm guessing they have 1 or 2 games this week before they play the Wild.
Unlike the Wild.
Right. I guess it's good for the Wild that they have this time off to get injuries healed up and whatnot, but.
Yeah, I guess that's the silver lining for sure, is that they've got, I think, like we just talked about 2 weeks ago, can they survive a couple of forward injuries? Yeah, I think they absolutely can. They can survive having Coyle out for, roughly a quarter to a third of the season. But, right now they have 5 forward injuries.
Right.
And that's a bit much. And
they're
so,
all, key players.
Yeah, and so getting those guys healthy is going to be important. And so, not having a game until Friday is really very inadvertently advantageous to this team. So as much as we complain about the schedule, and the schedule does suck as a fan, you don't get to see your team for literally almost a full calendar week for no reason whatsoever. But, as far as the injury situation goes, it's really kind of the best thing that could have happened to them.
Last year against the Central, the Wild were 17-9-3. That was third best in the division, actually. They trailed Chicago and Winnipeg, who had a similar record in that department, which is incredible, I know, which really shows you how bad Winnipeg was out of the division. They were 7-13-1 against the Pacific last year.
Pacific was terrible, too.
Yeah, the Jets are a curious case, but I did peg them to get in the playoffs this season. So I, make of that with how you will, because my predictions are often not good.
Well, they're going to go as Steve Mason goes, as we talked about. And he was rough right off the bat, but obviously he's shorted up a little bit to where, because they can score in absolute bunches. So it really is just going to matter if they can stop anyone.
And then because the schedule makes absolutely perfect sense, the Wild are back at it Saturday night in Calgary at the outdated Saddle Dome, of which those Flames are trying to get out of as they try to rig the mayoral election in Calgary to get a new arena up there. You got to love it when hockey plays a part in politics. Rolls eyes.
It's better than when politics plays a part in hockey.
Well, we're going down a dark hole, so I'm going to guide us right out of there.
Wrong hockey podcast.
What to look forward to on Saturday? I mean, we're going to get a good look at Jágr.
Yes, we are.
And we're going to come back to this in a little bit in a different segment.
Sure.
But, yeah, Jágr's on the Flames. He only has an assist so far, I believe I saw, in the 3 games he's played. But, the Flames are doing actually really good so far to start the year. Mike Smith has given them more than adequate goaltending, which is exactly what this team needed. And they're doing what they need to do. They have a very good defensive core. They have, very good scoring up front. So this will be an interesting game because, if the Wild aren't able to play soundly defensively, which they've struggled out of the gate here.
Yeah.
The Flames and the Jets are going to eat them alive.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I think that's it's going to make a big difference how many players they have healthy for these games. Because they've said, hey, maybe Granlund can come back. Hey, maybe Parise can come back. Hey, maybe Foligno can come back. Well, all those maybes don't really tell us a whole lot until Friday. So if they can get a couple of those guys back, especially Granlund, you would think would be the most important to get back. And Parise a little less so, but still important. That's going to make a huge difference, whether they're fielding a completely AHL fourth line again or not.
So if you had to pick Granlund, Parise, or Foligno, one of them to come back for the games this weekend, who are you pick? If you got to pick just one.
I would take Granlund.
Granlund?
Yeah. I just think he led the team in points last year. His creativity with the puck and even a little bit without it too is just so. It just really makes that Koivu, Zucker, Granlund line really can dominate a game. Really can take over a game. My thoughts on Foligno are well documented, and Parise, we haven't seen him yet this year, so. If we haven't seen him yet, I don't even know what to expect from him. Do you? I mean, I have no idea what we even think Zach Parise is capable of at this point. Is he the Zach Parise we saw last year, or is he? I mean, you got to wonder how much this injury, this non-back injury or whatever it is going to take an effect on his playing style.
I'm going to take Parise on this. 'Cause in both games, you're going to need kind of grind him out, greasy goals, which Parise specializes in.
Sure, but is he capable of that anymore, I think is my point.
Well, I mean, if we got to pick one, we'd give him the touch of healing powers. So
sure.
I pick Parise in that aspect.
I just noticed.
I wish it was that easy where you just, give him a back potion and it's all healed.
Right. I just know there's some people out there that would want to have Foligno back because he's scored so far this season.
He brings the grits.
And he has lots of grits, yes.
So that's what to look forward to this week. And then next week, I think we have kind of a more regular schedule. We do, actually.
Woo!
Yeah, there's 3 games in the next week. So,
What?
Woo! And they're all non-divisional games, 2 of which are Eastern Conference teams. So
Okay. Well, good. I'm home that week.
very exciting.
Swish.
The Bruce Boudreau quote of the week.
Hi, this is Bruce Boudreau. I don't see how in Toronto that they're calling it, unless it's a guy they just pulled in off the street that hasn't seen hockey before. If I were the fans, I'd be booing even more because they pay good money for this.
If you want it, don't just think you want it. Go out and f***ing want it.
Boy, I was expecting these to just be gold every week, and we have, I don't know, we've kind of had a slow start in that aspect too.
I think the other one's been pretty good. This week, I mean, what do you want him to say? Like,
I mean, I did enjoy his presser after the game last night, which I don't know if you can find that anywhere, but I thought it was pretty candid of him to throw the vets under the bus and say, yeah, these guys were just sloppy with the puck.
yeah.
But so what I had written down for his quote of the week was on Thursday when he commented on the Wild schedule. He says, I feel like we're in a European league where you play 2 games a week or college hockey.
Well, yeah, he's got the classic college schedule this weekend with the Friday, Saturday back-to-back. That's 100% a college schedule, so it is weird, but again, it helps with the injuries.
So I wonder if he'll go with the college hockey standout extraordinaire, Alex Stalock, in either of these games, or if he'll go with a Mike Yeo patented Dubnyk plays back-to-backs.
I feel like Friday night might depend on it. I feel like if they can get a win in Winnipeg on Friday night, I think he goes Stalock on Saturday. But if they don't, I think he goes back-to-back with Dubnyk. I just don't think he's reached that confidence level with Stalock just yet. He certainly hasn't lost confidence in him, a la Darcy Kemper, but I think he has just not quite gotten to the point where he knows he can rely on Stalock for a win. Even though Stalock played all right against Carolina.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. It just was more of a symptomatic of the Wild playing so loose defensively, as pointed out by Justin Bourne on The Athletic this last week, which was a phenomenal piece.
It was. It really was.
If you want to learn a little bit more about hockey systems, that is definitely something you need to look at.
Yeah, it was incredible.
No, that is your Bruce Boudreau quote of the week. Weekly wager. I bumped this up in our program.
Oh.
Because I remembered it.
Okay.
So last week, you may remember, we bet on the Wild Blackhawks game.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
With you switching at the end to take the Blackhawks.
Yes.
Well, the Wild only have 1 win this season, and that came Thursday against Chicago.
Right.
So that makes it 2-0 for me in favor of the weekly wager.
And you have your victory beer sitting in front of you.
Yeah, I got to work to it. There's a pile of drinks right in front of it. But no, it's because I remembered it this week. We did get a weekly wager written down before the show started.
Uh-huh.
And it is going to be centered around one Jaromir Jagr.
Of course.
Who will play against the Wild on Saturday night. And the bet is, will Jaromir Jagr score a goal Saturday night against the Wild? And as I said, in the 3 games he's played to begin his season, just 1 assist. However, in his career against the Wild, he has 7 goals and 14 assists in 20 games.
Wow.
So odds maybe more favor a point, but not necessarily a goal. So I am going to say Jagr does score a goal Saturday night, and that will be his first as a member of the Calgary Flames.
Well, I appreciate you gifting me a weekly wager victory like this. I obviously need the charity at this point. Because there was an article on Jaromir Jagr about how he has lost his legs on The Athletic this past week. I'm not so quickly I'm not so quick to accept that. I think he didn't have a training camp, and he's 40-some years old, and it's going to take him a little bit to warm up here. But I am just going to cross my fingers that he doesn't score and turn into this season's Jerome McGinley for the Flames against the Wild.
Did you like on Friday night when my friend Graham showed up in another Yager jersey?
Yeah, so Giles had a birthday celebration here at Unnamed Bar and Grill on Friday night, and his friend Graham showed up in a Rangers Yager jersey after already showing off his Liberty Rangers Yager jersey in a text before, showed off his white jersey. I came rocking the classic Kings Gretzky and gave Giles his traditional shot of Jameson, and he proceeded to unbutton his shirt and have many more drinks.
You guys know me too well. When you show up in a Yager jersey and a Kings Gretzky jersey, you know the way right to my heart.
Right. Just trying to have a good time.
No, that was fun. Please don't ask what happened, because good
doesn't
Lord if I remember after a certain point. But the bet on Yager scoring a goal Saturday night will be paid out in a Yager bomb.
Yes.
Which is just a Yag bomb.
Right.
But we put an R behind Yag because it's punny.
Right.
And we're all about puns on this podcast.
Less so than others, but still, everyone's about puns.
Right. So there you go. That is the weekly wager. And I think more to the point on, you saying Yager didn't quite have his legs. He's only averaging 13 minutes of ice time to start the year, so give him a little bit.
Yeah, they're starting him off slow, which is understandable considering he didn't start playing until a week ago.
He's been steadily averaging 17 minutes for the last, at least 3 years. So he'll get there.
Yeah.
Believe in Yager. He's timeless.
Yes.
Speaking of Calgary, let's move on to jerseys.
Ah, indeed.
Here to start the third period. What team is this? It's not Team USA. Oh, yes, it is. They've got on new uniforms. They're wearing the logo of the Duck. I've never seen this before.
The team of the week, since we have so many to choose from again this week, is the Calgary Flames. And, as we touched on our jersey analysis podcast, the Flames, one of the more disappointing teams. They kind of had a chance to make some changes. They did not, which was very upsetting.
Yes.
But as we now look to potentially a third jersey, what are you looking for out of them?
Well, I think as long as they're committed to this modern Flames look with the Black Sea and all that jazz, I think they're not afraid of that throwback jersey that we've seen them wear so much. I think if they do go with a third jersey, it'll probably be something to that effect. I don't think they'll go bananas and give us like a flaming horse again like they did in the 90s.
Peak 90s right there.
It was peak 90s.
As we pointed out on Twitter on Friday as we were having a little bit of fun with 90s NBA.
But
Not sorry, Tim.
Right. And funny enough, I thought that was a dragon for about 15 years. I had no idea it was an actual horse, which I guess kind of makes sense. But yeah, I think they go with the retro jersey. I think that they bring that in. They're certainly, like I said, they've certainly been very fond of showing it off, but for some reason they're not fond of switching back to something like that full time for reasons we don't understand. But I don't know. I would like to see it. If they go a more modern direction with it, I don't know how they do that exactly. They'd have to come up with a new logo, and because they've done every variation of the red, black, and yellow and orange sea, so I don't even know what they would do. Maybe they'll go orange like everyone else. They'll have an orange jersey because Lord knows that's all the rage right now.
What did you think of their alternates the last few years with the cursive
the script?
Calgary and
I thought it was like a wild ripoff, but it didn't quite look as good, if that makes sense. I didn't particularly like it. Yeah, just stick with the throwbacks. The Calgary, I don't know. And the fact they have their state flag, or the Alberta flag on their... I mean, they're not the only team in Alberta either, is the weird part. Like, it's weird to me they have a flag that doesn't match their uniforms at all on their shoulder, and they're not the only team in that province.
So what I would look out of a third jersey from Calgary is I gotta think they might dip into the blacks again. Like,
Can see that.
Like, as much as I would just love to sit here and say, yeah, they're gonna go with the retros. Like, I gotta think they're gonna maybe reopen the black jersey page and.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And maybe Calgary maybe cries as a team that at some point a team is going to put 3 stripes on the side of the hockey jersey, and that an alternate Calgary would be a team that would do that, because it's not like they're really trying with their regulars.
Right.
So I got to think maybe they look at a black jersey with red trim and the red C as the crest.
Could, yeah.
But with as popular as those retro jerseys were, it wouldn't surprise me if they went with those. But if Adidas has taught us anything, don't take anything for granted. So I'll go outside the box here and say they'll try a black alternate again.
If Adidas has taught us anything, it's going to have a goofy-looking collar.
All right, that's it for jerseys. Do you have any final thoughts?
I said this last week too, where it's just like I see a lot of doom and gloom, and of course everyone is.
Well, I mean, I'm expecting wild Twitter to be totally rational.
Well, and then there's also like people, of course, taking this opportunity to just savage Chuck Fletcher, and I think I've done my fair amount of savaging him just on the Palman trade alone, because it wasn't a good trade. Plain and simple, it wasn't a good trade. And I would have done this offseason totally differently. But, just people reaching for reasons to be upset with him when he has literally half of his healthy, half of his starting forwards injured. It's so weird to me that people are so eager to be upset. And maybe I'm just not, I don't know, maybe I'm just too level-headed for my own good. I don't even know. But at this point, I really doubt that's the case. I don't feel like that's the case. But it's so weird to me that people want to be so upset. And it's the middle of October.
Right. Whatever floats your narrative.
Exactly.
I mean, whatever gets you, whatever fills your narrative, you'll reach to find anything. My final thought is... Sorry, I was waiting for the Wild to come out of their hiatus. Honest to God, I feel like the Wild have, if they haven't, they should have put in a memo to the league asking why we get these ridiculous stretches early in the season, and then they get March when they're playing every other day, when they're playing 14 games in March. And I hate to push that button, but that's just an unfair advantage the Wild get every year, and you hope that it stops at some point. But when they have the same computer algorithm punching in the schedule now,
right,
they're probably going to get this every year. So I guess I would begin to start accepting this as commonplace every year, and if it doesn't happen next year, then great. I'd love to be wrong, but we'll just deal with it. And I guess this year we're a little more fortunate that the Wild are, a little banged up, so they're getting some time off when they really could use it. So that's my final thought.
Okay.
So yes, a little bit of promotion here. We forgot to throw this out on our Twitter on Friday, but I just put it out there from our podcast Twitter account that The recipient of our Pick and Shovel giveaway is loyal listener Ethan Hoffland, who won a shirt, a beer koozie, and a cap, courtesy of our friends at Pick and Shovelware. Again, do check them out at pickandshovelware.com or on Twitter at pickandshovelmn. And then I forgot what my other point in here was. Oh. And then the other thing I have is we are going to have a special podcast in the middle of the week for you. We have a big guest lined up.
Okay.
On Tuesday.
Okay.
Humongous big guest. No, it's not Briz, but just for the sake of saying humongous big guest.
Right.
We're going to have a special midweek show. It'll be briefer, but it's just because of the guest.
Okay.
So
Sure.
check for that midweek. So yeah, it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to get big guests here. That's how we're rolling. We just got to make sure the audio comes through good.
Well, wish in one hand and
Yeah. So no, that'll wrap it up for us this week. You can find us again on the Twitters at Giles Farrell, at Ben Remington. Find the podcast on Twitter at GATG Wild Podcast. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/GATG Wild Podcast. Find us on Instagram at GATG Wild Podcast. If you can't tell, pretty much any social media, find our podcast at GATG Wild Podcast. This isn't rocket science, folks. You can download our show on Libsyn. You can download us on iTunes. Give us an iTunes rating. Thank you to whoever Tater Tots 21 was. Gave us a nice rating last week.
nice.
And you can find us on the Stitcher app as well. And you can also find Ben and I writing at zonecoverage.com/wild. You can also find the written works of Heather Rule there, who's kind of writing out gamers every night. So do give us a follow. Do also follow zonecoverage.com. A lot of good work is being done there, as our friend Brandon Warren pointed out yesterday. Everyone pitching into different sports, and it's really coming together quite nicely.
Yeah.
So do give them a follow. They are on Twitter at ZoneCoverageMN. So do check them out. Yeah, like I said, we will be back midweek for a special show, and then we will have regular show on next week again on Sunday. But because of the long week, we figured we'd give you bonus content. Also, we just want your listens, so let's be honest.
Some sweet, sweet listens.
Yeah. We need those clicks.
Inject them into my veins.
So yeah, no, that will wrap it up for this week, and we will see you later.
Later.
It's not resiliency. You're making it sound like we're good. That's all. I'm done.